All right, George, you're back in Pittsburgh, so talk to me. How'd this happen?
Pittsburgh was always a part of me. I grew up here, and I had an incredibly happy childhood. I grew up in Squirrel Hill, and I loved being here.
Okay.
And then I left. I went to art school in Rhode Island. I moved to New York for a long time.
Okay.
It never occurred to me to move back to Pittsburgh.
All right.
We had kids.
What year did you leave?
I left in
Roughly
late 70s.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I have a really bad memory. That's why I take pictures, and I'm really bad with dates. But late 70s.
Okay.
Mid 70s.
All right.
I think I graduated from high school in 74.
All right.
And I leave, and I would always come back, to visit my parents, and I loved coming back. It never occurred to me to move back. So I live in New York. I have a big photo career that we can talk about.
Oh yeah, we're going to.
And then I moved to Santa Monica for the 90s.
Nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful there.
Then I moved back to New York on 9/12, right after 9/11.
Wow.
It's like I got to get home.
Wow. Okay.
And I considered New York home then. And then I met my wife, and we were having kids, and we moved to New Jersey, Maplewood, New Jersey, and we were there for 4 years.
Okay.
And that was not working for me. It was really great on paper, but it was not good. And then my brother, who had been living in Boulder for 20 years, got sick, and I went out to take care of him. And my wife Steffi comes out, and she looks around, and she sees Sanitas, which is it's right at the base of this mountain. And she said, "Are we moving here?" And I said, "We can move here if you want to. I'm a photographer. I can work anywhere because I just get on planes."
Sure.
And we moved out there, and we lived there for 7 years.
Okay.
Last year, my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer. She was a month short of 90.
Okay.
And I came back here for 3 months, and I was kind of in heaven. I loved being back here. She lived in the house that she grew up in, and I grew up in.
Okay.
So it's been in the family for 86 years, 87 years.
That's special.
And I realized something during those months. I realized that when I was growing up, there was this feeling that I had. And it was really this feeling of joy, but it was this feeling that I just felt. And when I left Pittsburgh, and I just learned this last year, everywhere I went, I tried to recreate that feeling. I recreated it with everyone I photographed. I recreated it with strangers. I recreated it with people I was involved with, and my wife and my family. It was just this feeling that I was trying to get to. And you can see it when you look at my pictures. Like, if you look at them and go, there's that feeling, there's that feeling, there's that feeling, it's all there. But until last year, I didn't understand that kind of connective tissue for my whole life came back to that feeling of growing up.
Got it.
Now, since I was able to create it in different places, I didn't have to come back to Pittsburgh. It was inside of me.
Got it.
But when my mother passed away, and we were getting the house ready to go on sale, and you don't empty it out because it doesn't look that good empty, but you kind of like do all this stuff, so it's not really anyone's anymore.
Right.
And we did that, and we put it on sale, and there was a little legal issue with the neighbor. A really silly little legal issue that delayed putting it on the market, and then it was winter.
Okay.
So we took it off the market. Come like the beginning of December, our boys, I have 2 boys, 8 and 11, they said, well, we're going to Pittsburgh over New Year's like we always do. And I said, my mom's gone. The house doesn't look like what you remember. We aren't going to Pittsburgh. And they said, of course we're going. We always go there. So we said, okay. And we come here on this incredibly cold night just after Christmas.
Okay.
And it's cold and wet and miserable. And the backyard, the leaves are like a foot high because they had done the cleanup, and I wasn't here to see early, and it was a late thing with the leaves. So it just looks horrible.
Okay.
And we go in, and the house is cold, and we turn on the heat, and we turn on the lights, and we start making pancakes. And the boys look at us and they say, see, it feels like home.
Wow.
That's how I came back to Pittsburgh. That flipped the switch in us.
That did it.
I had never talked with my mother about moving here, and she never would have even brought it up. I had never considered it. And my wife and I, Steffi, at that moment, it's like, oh, this is our home. And the next day or a couple of days later, we met with a friend of mine who's Bobby Feldman, who is an incredible financial advisor in Pittsburgh and an old friend of mine.
Right.
And he's just been giving me the best advice. And it's funny as an artist to be getting your best advice from a financial advisor. That just, it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, I get it.
When he said this, I mean, one of the craziest things that he said is, my mother had some money to leave us, not a lot, but like a little bit. And he said, this money's not for your kids' college and it's not for your savings. This money's to be the artist that you never allowed yourself to be.
Oh, how about
that?
that?
I mean, Bobby
That's powerful.
He's extraordinary, but he also just has an extraordinarily big heart, and his heart leads everything that he does. And the people that get to be in his orbit are very lucky, and I'm one of them, and to be his friend.
Right.
So that was really helpful. And we go and meet with Bobby, and I don't say a word. Steffi, who grew up in Nashville, makes the case for moving back to Pittsburgh. And part of it was financial. Boulder's gotten crazy, stupid, expensive, and kind of out of my range. And Boulder was not a good place for my business. It was a good place to raise the kids. It was a good place to have some really nice friends. But it was not good for my business. I was out of the orbit.
Okay.
And I'll take credit for some of that. I didn't push hard enough or make enough trips back to New York or LA or whatever. But we decided to move back to Pittsburgh. And we got here like a month ago.
Wow. So it's real fresh here.
It's totally fresh. And I'll tell you, the first week, the phone starts ringing in ways that it hadn't rung in and I'm saying the phone rings. It could have been an email or a text or whatever.
Understood. In our vernacular, the phone rings.
And like a friend of mine from National Geographic called, and she said, I've never had an assignment to give out in Pittsburgh, and I just got one. And it's to shoot Jeff Goldblum for Jeff Goldblum Day.
Wow.
And
that's very cool.
And it was fun.
That's very cool.
And she was so excited that it was my first week in Pittsburgh and she had an assignment. Immediately.
Yeah.
So that's great.
You're back.
That's how, I'm back. So, when you make big decisions, I'm going to get married and live with you for the rest of my life.
It's a pretty big decision.
We are going to have kids.
It's a bigger decision.
We are going to live in this house on this block right here. And these are our two neighbors.
Right.
And these are our next neighbors. All of those are such big decisions that they're a leap of faith. Like, I don't believe in here are the pros and here are the cons, and we're going to do this really logically. Like, I've never made really a logical decision in my life. They're all emotional decisions. Yeah. That's how I'm wired.
And I see that in your photography. It's all about the feeling. Am I right? Is that am I describing you correctly?
I really don't care what things look like. I care what things feel like. And I've been going into situations and trying to share that through my photography my whole life.
Right.
And I'm not, my wife, Steffi, teases me about this, but I believe it. I'm not that visual person. Like, when you see someone,
I don't get that.
When you see someone,
look at your work. How could you say this?
Right, but the visual stuff's so intuitive that when I see someone go to the Gap and there are 5 T-shirts, yellow, green, blue, red, orange, whatever, and they go, oh, it's definitely the orange one. That's me. It's like, I don't get it. The green one's great. The red one's great. They're all great, and I get that we have to make decisions. You go to a restaurant. What do I want to eat? Salmon, cod, lobster. They're all great.
Right.
If they're cooked well.
Right.
And like all that stuff, it's not the color of the shirt that we're wearing. It is not the fish that we picked out to eat or whatever, or the cut of steak. It's this. It's the people that we're with. It's the connection that we make.
Totally agree.
And all this stuff gets lost in surfaces, in the visual part. Like, if you have hair combed this way or this way, do I care? When I would do my big celebrity shootings in Hollywood, they would bring in racks and racks of clothing. Everything on that rack was amazing. It's from Prada and Gucci, and it's all beautiful. And they'd say, what do you like? And I would just, it didn't even matter. I could spin it around and say, I like this, and it would be something great.
Because you're there to shoot the person.
But
right?
they wanted me to have an opinion.
Interesting.
And they'd say, well, we're going to do this with her hair. What do you think? It looks amazing. Like, what color lips should we put on Halle Berry?
Got it.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Every single color, I'm photographing one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Right.
And then I did photograph, and all the women I photographed were amazing and beautiful, but I photographed Sophia Loren at one point, who is really the most elegant woman. And it's something about like she's...
That's an iconic photo, my friend.
Thank you. But she comes in, and it's for Big Condé Nast magazine, and she has no one with her. There's no publicist. There's no hair and makeup.
How about that?
There's no... I think the magazine was doing some styling. And she wraps herself in a towel, gets a glass of wine, sits down on the floor and starts doing her hair and makeup.
Herself.
She was not saying, how does my hair look or what lips should I use?
She was confident with her own decisions.
Absolutely. And it was so beautiful. And I love that picture. But then I wanted to show her doing something very utilitarian because she was so elegant. So we put her in this beautiful Todd Oldham dress, and I strapped a leaf blower on her. And she's going around this garden. And it's so beautiful. But you know what? There was that feeling.
Yeah.
There was that feeling that I had growing up in Pittsburgh. In that garden in Beverly Hills.
Got it.
On that afternoon with this amazing actress that I'd never met before and would never meet again. But something funny happened that day too. Because it was her, I catered a beautiful lunch with linen tablecloths.
Okay.
And linen napkins and crystal. And
It's Sophia Loren.
It's Sophia Loren. I was going to do it up. And I'm sitting across from her, and after lunch, she gets out her lipstick and puts on her lipstick and reaches for the napkin and presses her lips on the napkin. And it's the only autograph I've ever gotten in my entire career.
That one. Wow. Wow. I get it, though. I totally get it, though. So you picked up your first camera when you were 7, if my information is correct.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's.
Do you remember that camera? Do you still have that camera?
I don't have that camera. I don't have any cameras, like old cameras. I'm not attached to, like, you're in this museum, kind of, and I don't have any of that. All I have are my pictures, and none of them are hanging right now. Like, I've never had a lot of pictures hanging in my life, but like now that we moved in, we haven't put up one picture yet. One picture of Steffi's great uncle John, who just passed away at 100.
Oh, wow.
Is in our living, our dining room. But my mother's house that we just moved into was a museum. Like
Understood.
There were 100 pictures of mine hanging everywhere from me with Yo-Yo Ma to Bill Clinton to whoever,
parental pride, my friend.
to my first high school picture, through all this stuff, and we took every picture down.
I do get it, because although this will seem a bit extreme in here, this is more of a tribute to what I did. But I many years embraced the concept of minimalism. And why I am so honored that you're here today, because I have loved photography my whole life. My children grew up at my side with my 35 millimeter either in my hand or on the car seat. They probably got so tired of it, but I captured every day and I labeled them the days, and that's the greatest gift I've always thought I could ever give them when I'm gone. They're not going to want my furniture. They're not going to want my watch. They're not going to want anything else that I have. But this gift to leave them of their life and how their dad viewed those moments, if that makes any sense?
Yeah.
That to me is always the gift I wanted to give them. I don't think they're at the age now they can appreciate it. They will someday.
Well, a couple things around that. First of all, if you're photographing what it felt like to you, that's different than what it looked like.
I think I did photograph what it felt like to me.
And you have to curate it a little bit. If you leave them a hard drive with 3 million pictures on it.
I've changed, yeah.
Okay,
I've pruned.
So that's
hard. Pruning was hard.
Very, very hard. Very hard. So
thank you. Good tip.
Two funny stories around that. One is I photograph my kids every day, even if it's a snap on my phone. Like I have some, they can go to, like when I was 8 years old on this day, 7-year-old on this day, there's some picture of them that exists. And and then sometimes we do something, more, and they're used to being photographed because their dad's this photographer. And every once in a while I'll thank them. I'll say, I really appreciate you let me take these pictures. They haven't
Right.
started to push me away yet. They're still embracing it. Dad, get your camera. Or Dad, let's take a
That's
picture of
great.
this. And I'll say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jackson says to me, my 11-year-old, he says, Dad, that's what the Lange family does. We take pictures.
That's great, though. That's great.
But
That's
when I
great.
was cleaning up my mom's basement, there was this one box, and I opened it up, and the smell of vinegar almost knocked my socks off.
bet.
It was so disgusting. And there were film cans in there. And I thought, if it smells this bad, the smell of vinegar is the smell of it decomposing.
Right.
These must be ruined, but let me see what happens. And I took them in my suitcase. I packed them in a garbage bag and took them back to Denver. And
Now, were they undeveloped film?
No, developed film.
So it was negatives in there.
It was actually positives.
Oh, okay.
It was
Okay.
16 millimeter film.
I know what that is.
Black and white in unmarked cans.
Okay.
And I had it digitized. And last August, I get this little thumb drive from this place that digitized it. I put it in the back of my computer. And it was movies from the early 30s. My grandparents on my mother's side, who bought this house and lived there, died very young. My grandfather, who I'm named after, died, he was 39, George Lange.
Okay.
He owned the Arsenal on 40th Street.
Really?
Yeah. This whole piece of land there. And he was into wholesale groceries business.
Okay.
Very early on and doing very well. And then he got this tumor and was gone.
Right.
I had never seen him move. I had seen still pictures of him, but I had never seen him move. And I put this little thumb drive in my computer, and there's George Lange and Jean Lange, his wife, and my mom holding each other, kissing each other,
That's amazing.
walking.
That's
My
amazing.
Aunt Barbara is coming home from the hospital when she was born in these. My mother's 5th birthday party in the backyard of the house I just moved back into. And the tree that's now gigantic is like,
that big.
teeny. And
Wow.
that's suddenly on my screen. And I just, burst into tears.
Absolutely.
I mean, I had
Absolutely.
never seen these people move.
Right.
And that's kind of the power of this. The other thing, there's a photographer that I talk about a lot who I love to death.
Okay.
He's from McKeesport.
Okay.
He's now 87 years old. His name is Dwayne Michaels. The Carnegie Museum did a retrospective a couple years ago of his work. When I was at RISD, I went to hear him speak up at MIT.
Okay.
And he speaks very fast, and I'm sitting there recording it with my cassette recorder. And I go back to RISD, and I spend a week with a legal pad handwriting every word he said.
Transcribed the whole thing.
And that became my Bible. I still have it.
Wow.
And he became like what he thought about time and photography and art and creativity and all these things were really like it just all made sense to me, and I bought into and I looked up to him so much. I did a workshop with him at the Mattress Factory after I graduated from college, and I knew him barely, but I would run into him in New York. He bought a townhouse in New York, and he's been extremely successful. He would say, George, call me. I'm in the phone book. And I would go, I can't call you. You're Dwayne Michaels. It would be like calling Roberto Clemente if you're into baseball or
Right,
whatever. Like
right.
he was so much bigger than life to me.
Wow.
But the last couple years, I called him and we had lunch
How cool is that?
and we become friends. And it's just, he's still the most generous, the most remarkable mentor in my life. And when I drove my U-Haul truck here in May, I get this random email from Dwayne saying, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh May 17th. Will you be there?
What's the odds of that?
And I said, yes, I will. And we met down in Market Square for 3 hours.
Wow.
And we're just sitting there. And he is, I mean, it's amazing. He's photographed so many famous people, but he gets intimidated too, which blew my mind.
Really?
He said, when I photographed Magritte and De Chirico and Robert Frank, a very famous photographer, I was like, oh my gosh. He says, who intimidates you? I said, you do.
You do.
You're the only one. I'll go to the White House. I won't blink, but to spend an afternoon with you.
Before we get into some of your subjects and some of your work, I want to talk more just conceptually for a second, because what I love that you're saying that's never been said to me about photography is about movement, motion, and human connectivity. You want to sometimes think you're doing that in the background, but we're also consumed with the camera, the settings, the light, the aperture, shutter speed, how all that works together, depth of field to create that picture. In your mind, you're getting there. I think I've often been lost in the semantics of it all. Mm-hmm. And when I would dumb it down, sometimes, George, if I had my little snap and shooter, then when cameras started being in phones, you didn't worry about that stuff. It was basically just frame the photo and you go. And some of my most precious photos of my children came from these smaller cameras. I look back on that now, I overthought everything as a good amateur photographer does.
Right.
But you don't talk about any of that. The camera's just a tool for you, am I right? It's just a tool, and this session and experience is about your subject. Is that right?
Right. If you would ask me about my car, I can't tell you anything about my car.
Right.
I don't know what's under the hood. I don't know what kind of tires are on it. I don't know, like, when the blades are going to go bad. Like, I don't know anything.
Most people don't either.
I mean, there'll be one day that I'm in the rain. It's like, oh, these aren't working. I have to get them fixed. You know, I do fill it with gas, hopefully before it gets empty. But but I'm not interested in any of that. I'm interested. There's a funny story. I had a job a couple years ago. There's an in-house agency at Facebook and Instagram called Creative Shop. And they do about 500 or 600 campaigns a year. They call them lighthouse campaigns to show how you can use their platforms in more interesting ways. Did
you do it for Instagram? Were you at Cannes? The Cannes interview was for Instagram there, right? Okay.
So we go up to Detroit, and they take me up to Detroit for some meeting or something, and we're with a car company.
Okay.
And I say, I have the ugliest car made in front of my house. I have a crappy gray Sienna. It's old, it's ugly, there is nothing nice about it, except when my family's in there and we're going someplace and we're safe and we're singing and we're driving, it's the most awesome car on the road.
Got it.
It's better than anything being made anywhere because my family's there and we're together. And it's kind of the same way that I look at everything. That the pictures that I'm taking, I'm not taking with my eyes. I'm taking with my heart. And I feel like we need to use all of our senses when we're taking pictures. What does this smell like? What does this sound like? What does this feel like? What, you know, and then your eyes are part of the process too. But even when you're biking, I feel like when you're on a bicycle, the greatest safety feature you have are your ears. I hear things long before I see them.
I get that.
So
I get that.
I feel like the idea that you're only photographing what something looks like is kind of crazy. And then the other thing that I like to think about is I want to know what my experience is like. And I want to know what my son's experience is like. I'm not interested in the sunset. I'm interested in how the sun bounces off of us, reflects off of us. And there's a story that I've told before that I love where we were at a beach house and Jackson was probably 8 at the time. He's a photographer's son. And he runs down the steps. He was even in the bathroom at my mom's the other day. He comes in, Dad, you got to see the light pouring in. It was before he went to camp.
Looking at life differently.
Yeah, I love that. But he comes running down the steps at this beach house. He goes, Dad, you have to see the light in my room. And we go up to his room, and it's all white. And he says, look, the walls are pink. Look, the bed's pink because there's a sunset outside. And it's all this pink light coming in. He goes, look at me, I'm pink because that light's coming off of him. And I am so much more interested in the sunset reflecting off of anyone than I am looking out at that sunset. And everyone takes that picture that you already know. Everyone takes that picture of their coffee that you already know. And that's fine.
Right.
But what did that coffee taste like? Who were you with? What was going on when you were drinking that?
So how does someone who's not a photographer who loves Instagram and takes Instagram pictures all day long, how do you suggest that they translate that into a one-dimensional photograph? I mean, you seem to do it because what I want to talk to you about was composition. It's the most thrown around word, and the composition has to be there. Every photographer that thinks they're worth their salt talks about composition. And you go beyond composition because I've looked at some of your some of your work, and I go, like last night I was up late reviewing some of your photos, and I say I would have framed that probably differently than George did, but George is like got some kind of like emotion to it that I would have missed. I can acknowledge it. I would have missed that.
So when you wake up in the morning, let me not speculate. When I wake up in the morning, before my eyes are even open, I hear things going on.
So you're listening.
I'm listening. My wife is meditating in the other room, and sometimes I can hear. It's a little scary sounding, this like thing that she does, but I know it leads to a good place, so I'm grateful.
Sure.
And my son Asher generally comes in, and this morning, he comes in and just starts spinning this dream, and he does this weird thing that you do at 8 years old, which is you try and recall the dream, and then you embellish it.
Of course.
So he's talking about this dream with these like super high slides up on some big mountain and this whole thing. My eyes aren't open yet.
Okay.
And then I will smell breakfast going. Steffi's finished meditating and she's starting breakfast, and I'm being lazy, and so before my eyes even open, there's this whole world going on that if you pay attention to it, it's so rich. And then when you open your eyes and see the light coming in the window and this room that you're in and these children that you love, and we had a friend sleep over and he's there with his, British accent, and that's all fun. And, there's all this stuff going on. We haven't had breakfast yet.
Right. But
and
most of us miss all of that.
And you know why?
Yeah.
We pick up our phone and it's like start checking what Trump said last night and start checking what emails are going on, or what the pirates did or whatever, and we turn over and we turn on our phone and it never really goes off the whole day. And I'm not going to be one of these people. I'm as bad as anyone else, but
what you do is beyond that, though. So at what point as a photographer did you make the change, or was it gradual from being just a photographer to someone who immerses yourself, immerse themselves in their work?
I didn't know how to do any. I didn't know how to do it.
So you always looked at photography that way?
Yeah, but I didn't know what I was doing. Like I seriously did not understand the connective tissue for all of my work until last year.
Wow.
And I was just 64.
Wow. You don't look at my friend.
Oh, thank you.
I would never have guessed that. Never have guessed that.
It's all that plastic surgery I've been doing, and the hair implants and everything. But
you're still learning, then,
but
right?
I was doing all. So in the 90s, I was shooting film, medium format film.
Yeah.
And every day I had an assignment. It was nuts. I was just on a roll.
Right.
And every night I would edit very quickly because I had another assignment the next day. So I wouldn't look carefully at what I was doing. I would just take pictures, edit, take pictures, edit, take pictures.
Was it a job then?
They were all jobs.
It's just that you looked at it as a job.
It was a job.
You're right, but I mean, it was. You're still passionate about it, but
it was all assignments.
Okay, fair enough.
And then I had 18 file cabinets with 5 drawers each. I had like 80 file drawers. Each drawer had like 20 assignments in it. They were all in folders.
Wow.
And I stored them out on the north side of Pittsburgh at a place called BRM. This firefighter started this, this place behind Wendy's.
Right.
And I put it there. And through the years, I would go and visit it when I came home to visit my mom. And I'd go out there and it's like, oh, I can't deal with this. I run away.
Okay.
The next year I go, I should be friends with these guys. Oh, wow. I forgot about that, and run away. I never pulled the film.
Really?
There were a couple frames that got out into the world,
Why?
But in general, it was too overwhelming. But the bigger thing was I didn't understand what the connective tissue was. I didn't understand what made a George Lange picture.
Okay.
Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I didn't understand that.
Okay.
So then after last summer, and I had these months alone here without kids, and I'm dealing with something pretty emotional.
Sure.
And every morning, someone gave me an apartment, I would go and write. Mm-hmm. And stuff was bubbling up, but...
It's cathartic.
Yeah. And I was listening to the same CD every day. CD, it was streaming. Lucinda Williams and Charles Lloyd's Vanished Garden.
Okay.
Every day. And I would just sit there and I would make a deal with myself. My fingers stay on the keypad. They don't leave unless I have to go to the bathroom. So I sat there, I wrote. I cried. I was like, wow, look at that. I didn't edit. I didn't think about what I was writing. I was just like writing. And after that, and then my mom passed away, and she had like a glorious send-off. She was good till the last 10 days.
God bless her.
She was a month short of 90. On my birthday last year, July 10th, she ate her last dinner at the dining table that we had both grown up at.
Wow.
The next morning she wakes up and she says, I need to get my nails done and my fingernails and my toenails. She wanted a manicure and a pedicure. So we take her little oxygen thing and we go down to Walnut Street to this place, and she gets her manicure and pedicure. And she says, and I need a new pair of pants. We go across the street, get her a new pair of pants, come home. She puts on the pants. She gets in bed. She folds her hands and she says, it's time to go bye-bye. And 10 days later, she was gone.
Oh, my goodness. She knew.
She knew.
She knew.
And she didn't even talk about it.
Wow.
It was just, but she was awesome. Yeah. So anyhow, I had this experience where, of course, I was sad, but I wasn't distraught, and I wasn't even depressed. Like, she had gone out with so much light.
Got it.
And the light was still around.
Got it.
The light never died. Like, it wasn't like some people gone, and how am I going to, go on? I can't speak to my mother anymore. We spoke almost every day, and it was just like she had done a good job. She had done a good job with me. She had done a good job with my kids. She loved my wife, Steffi. She said Steffi was the greatest gift that I ever gave her. Right. And she loved so many people around her. She didn't like some people too, and she was kind of black and white about that. But whatever, that was her thing. And so then. So I have this job of like cleaning out the house.
Sure.
And as part of that time that I was here doing that, I went to the North Side. I go through these pictures one day, and I said to myself, there's that feeling. There's this Jim Carrey shooting. Oh, there's that feeling. There's a shooting with Kate Spade. Oh, there's that feeling. There's Seinfeld. Oh, there's that feeling. But the feeling was all over the place, whether it was celebrities or whether it was shooting for Cardinal Health in Columbus or Dick's or whatever. There's that feeling. There's that feeling. And I grabbed 4 drawers equivalent of film. I just skimmed, grabbed stuff that interested me, brought it back to Boulder.
Okay.
I had a $20,000 scanner in the garage that was just going bad. That was 15 years old. Okay. And I get it out and dust it off, figuring this is not going to fire up. And we found out that we needed a 2009 Mac with a SCSI port to fire it up. Oh my
gosh, okay.
I found one for $60, a Mac Mini on eBay with 4 adapters. We plug it in and that thing fires up.
I bet.
And I start scanning this film. And then I buy a printer, a professional printer, and get really good paper and really good inks. Sure. And we start making prints from this stuff. And
That's awesome.
I am hysterical laughing. Because I am printing these pictures that I never even knew existed. My name's on them, but outside of that, I don't even remember taking some of them.
That's like finding buried treasure almost.
There's a folder of Diane von Furstenberg for Vogue. And I look in it, and it's empty. And then I look way at the bottom, there's 1 frame. And we print this, and it's the most beautiful picture of Diane I've ever seen. And she's sitting there in this beautiful pose on the sofa, and there's a mountain of Manolo Blahnik heels. And that he's the most famous shoe designer. Yeah. And then I see a folder, Manolo Blahnik, and he's in this crazy pose. And
you just simply forgot about it? They didn't resonate enough with you initially when you shot?
Well, the thing is, I've taken so many pictures. I
bet.
I'm 64. I've been taking pictures every day my whole life. Like, if I did remember them, I'd be a horrible photographer. Like, my idea, Keith Jarrett, the jazz pianist, he sits at Carnegie Hall, and his whole thing is clearing his head and just playing, improvising, but not having anything in his head. That's how I take pictures. I don't do my research. I don't like sketch out a bunch of ideas generally. Once in a while I have to have something. But I like to go in, when I was photographing Jeff Goldblum the other day, I had 10 minutes with him. It was not a great setup, but I had 10 minutes with him, and they wanted me to shoot at some bar in the Strip.
Okay.
And available light. I wasn't able to set up a light or do anything.
Right.
And the bar was very nice, but not good for a picture. And I go out in the back, well, I got there a little early, and there's a new parking lot that's white.
Okay.
And it's a hot day like today, and it's super sunny, and the light's just bouncing off this parking lot. It's beautiful. So I say, let's go back there. And he's great. He's from Pittsburgh, too.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a super nice guy.
Oh, yeah. That's what I hear.
And extremely funny. Like, very dry.
Constantly, yeah.
Yeah, but
dry.
Yeah, very, very, very funny. And we're close to the same age, so we had a lot in common. And we go back there, and we're taking pictures, and they're fine. They're amazing, but they're fine. And this woman who works at the parking lot next door, this large African-American woman, is wearing bright red, and she's doing a FaceTime, and she's going down the alley. And she's very loud and pretty distracting. And most photographers would say, hey, we're taking pictures. I have 5 minutes with Jeff Goldblum. Can you?
Right.
And I was like, this is awesome. And she starts going by, and she realizes it's him. And she starts waving and carrying on. And he's like, waving. And he looks back at me, and there's my picture.
I get it. I get it.
There's that feeling. I go to photograph Kate Spade. And I walk in, and she is painting her toenails at her desk. She has a red lacquer desk, and she's painting her toenails. And I said, hey, can I take pictures? She goes, sure. I'm done in 2 minutes. I've gotten that feeling. That's all I came to get.
Incredible.
I have to stay because I got to do a cover for this magazine and everything else. But what I came to get, I've gotten. I'm photographing.
Wow.
I have an assignment to shoot Jon Stewart and Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
Early Jon Stewart career. And they call me. It's at John's apartment, and Oprah's coming over there to interview him. And they said there are 3 rules. You can't say where John lives. You can't go in his bedroom, and you can't photograph his baby. He has a new baby.
Okay.
The elevator opens in his apartment. It looks right into his bedroom. He's on the floor playing with his baby. I said, John, I have to take some pictures. He goes, come on in. In 10 seconds, I've broken 2 of the 3 rules.
Yeah, but what you look at the output you got probably,
beautiful.
Right? Yeah, exactly right.
If I would have gone in and said, I'm going to set up the light here, and the picture is going to look like this, and this is what we're doing.
You don't seem like you could ever do that. You're not stodgy like that.
But I respect photographers that are that. I mean, they're much more visual than I am. They're photographers that are really good at setting something up and putting someone in their picture.
Okay. You don't think the consumer can tell the difference? Because I think so.
Maybe, but
what's
there's
more
room for both of us.
and what's more authentic, maybe.
Maybe, but you want to know what's so funny is people always ask if someone was a down to earth or if they were a diva. I love divas. I love it. The whole down to earth thing is really overrated.
I get it.
I want to go and photograph a drama queen. It's so much fun. Who wants to photograph someone that's down to earth and so nice and sitting there with their shoes off? I'd rather photograph Aretha Franklin at her house, coming out dressed as Queen Nefertiti, and giving me 6 frames and being like,
I get it.
Completely Aretha Franklin. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's obviously
and that's
more emotions to that, right? I mean,
that's authentically Aretha.
Right. As opposed to trying to catch her at a cup of coffee sitting on a sofa.
Well, you know what happened at the end of that shooting? The whole day she's dressing up as like these divas.
Sure.
And then she comes out, she lets me take like 8 frames of each and disappears for another 3 or 4 hours. At the end of the day, she comes out wearing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt.
Okay.
And doesn't look like the diva or the thing. She looks like that person that you described. She goes in the kitchen, gets a plate of chicken. She sits down on this big couch with the chicken. She undoes the buckle on her pants and falls asleep.
That's human. That's just being human.
Yeah, but do you take that picture?
Did you?
No. She invited me into her house. In inviting me into her house, there's a certain there's a certain privilege and there's a certain
decorum, maybe? Or
no, it's not decorum. It's really respect, which is a beautiful word to use for her.
No question.
But there's like an understanding that I'm going to respect the privilege of being invited in her house, and I'm not going to take advantage of that.
That makes sense, though.
And even if I took that picture and I buried it my entire life, it would come out one day.
No question.
And
no
I didn't want that picture to come out.
I get it. But that has to be a judgment call all the time for you.
All the time.
All the time.
Because the power of photography is intense. And when you are invited into someone's life and they trust you, you have to respect that.
Yeah.
In the same way that a good marriage is based on trust.
Right.
And you know the deal with that?
Right.
You have to be trustworthy.
Yeah. You can't have one without the other, right?
Exactly. You can expect your wife to trust you if you're out doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Were you ever intimidated by anything? Even in your younger years, you get an assignment. The assignments probably continue to get broader and broader in scope, and all of a sudden, boom, you get President Clinton or whatever that happens in your career. Right. Was anything ever like, wow, I'm at the White House, or wow, I am here, or I'm going there?
There's a difference between being intimidated and being excited.
Okay.
But I always enter every single new person I meet, including coming out here, with the table like this.
Okay.
I am always not intimidated, but
fascinated,
maybe, but to the point of not feeling inferior, but feeling like the person that I'm meeting with or the person that I'm photographing knows something that I don't know. It's weird. And then I feel the table go like this. I don't want it to be like this, but I never. Maybe now at this stage of my life, I'm getting a little better at walking in. My son's baseball coach scares me.
Okay.
It makes no sense. I photograph the most famous people in the world, and I go to his baseball game, and I'm afraid to take pictures in the dugout because the coach might say something to me.
There you go. Yeah, that isn't as genuine.
That happened last night. I am playing this game with myself. It's like 100 degrees. No one cares that I'm taking pictures. And I'm going like, I wonder if these kids, if they don't want me here.
Great, though.
I wonder if the coach is going to slap my hand. Don't take pictures. And I'm going to go It's completely insane. And then I find out, my favorite is there's a friend of mine, Coach Kelly, out in Boulder.
Okay.
And he was Jackson's great early coach out there, and he was so nice. And we went to the games, and a lot of the dads like to be involved. And at early practice, Coach Kelly says to one dad, okay, you're going to be the third base coach. And he goes to the other, you're going to be the first base coach. And he goes, George, you're the photographer. You're like taking pictures. But in that thing, he gave me permission to basically do what I do. And the truth is that is what I do. I'm a horrible,
that's what you do.
Horrible third base coach. I'm a horrible first base coach. But I captured pictures of those kids that I never could have gotten without that permission.
Understood. I get that. Has it always been people photography with you? Have you done any product photography in your career?
Yeah. Well, I try to get the products to talk to me, and they're always like...
Yeah, I would think that'd be a problem.
Yeah. There's a famous architect, Frank Gehry, and he had just designed these chairs that were inspired by hockey sticks. They're great shapes. And I was doing a portrait of him, and the magazine asked me to do a portrait of the chairs, too.
Just the chairs.
Yeah. So I got a pool behind one of the houses that he designed. It's very dramatic.
All right.
And I went to the tire repair store and got some inner tubes. And I floated the chairs on these inner tubes.
Okay.
And when they were floating around, it was all like they were kind of like looking at me and looking away and dancing and doing all this stuff.
You tried to make them human.
Kind of.
Tried to make them alive, right?
Right. So I feel like there are also pieces of telling stories that aren't always a portrait and aren't always animated. It might be a shadow. It might be someone's desk. It might be, there's a funny thing I did for Harley Davidson on a biker, and he showed me his phone. And first of all, it was in this crazy metal case. And it was a picture of a video of a dog with a fire hydrant spewing water, and the dog's trying to get close to it, and then he's blown away.
Okay.
So is that a still life? Kind of. So I did a portrait of that, and even in that same, it was kind of a video project, I showed the keys to all these guys' bikes rather than the bikes. The keys were more interesting to me because they were all really unique.
I get it.
So sometimes it's that.
Did you ever dabble in film in video, or film being movies?
Right.
I and then we'll move to the activations because I'm fascinated by that. But did you ever
want to know about this hat?
We're getting there. I've been staring at the zip code is in Greentree, I think. Was it 15?
It's Homestead.
15. Oh, that's right. It is Homestead zip code. Yeah. So it's your show.
No. I'm just teasing.
Film and video, was that a part of your portfolio?
What? I tried some video. Video is hard because the post-production is so intense, and it requires like a lot of decisions that I'm not really good at making.
Like
my wife Steffi's really good when we're editing video.
Okay.
She'll see things that I don't see.
Okay.
So when she's involved with them, they're really good.
Okay.
And so I'm not that good at that. And film also involves more pre-production than I'm really good at either.
Mm-hmm. Is there any real film left anymore, like moving pictures? Is it
video? Yeah, video is powerful, but it's hard because the people that are really good at video, no one's wanting to spend the money on it anymore.
Got it.
So you have it at like Netflix production level or whatever, or you have it at someone shooting something with their phone. But in between, it's like a little complicated. I did some work. The first video I ever did was for Jenny's ice cream.
Okay.
And I was doing all their still branding work. And I called Jenny and I said, I need to do a test case so I can show people I can do video. And I go and I shoot this video for 3 years, or for 3 years, for 3 days.
Okay.
And I'm miserable. Okay. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's all weird.
It's not your medium.
No. So the last hour that I'm there, I get this idea. I'm at one of the stores. Mm-hmm. And there's a woman waiting in line who's kind of attractive, but like not nearly as attractive as she became when I started doing this video.
Okay.
And she's on her first date with this guy. And then there's a woman, Jackie Silverman, who is scooping ice cream there.
Okay.
She's actually an amazing photographer, an amazing photo teacher now out of Chicago.
Okay.
And I said, Jackie, get a scoop of cherry lambic, which is this red ice cream.
Right.
And go out on the street and hold the cone out. And I told this woman who was waiting in line, I had this guy she was dating stand right next to me. And I said, go down the street, walk up, lick the ice cream till it falls off the cone, wipe your mouth and walk away. And we did one take.
Was the ice cream red?
Yeah.
I saw that. That was awesome.
It's ridiculous.
I saw that. That was great.
It is the sexiest, craziest.
There's no question. Especially when she looks at the camera when she's done.
Yeah, that's one take.
Wow.
And the guy standing next to me that's going out with her that night is like out of his mind.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
But so I did that, and Jenny, because she's fearless and awesome, ran that on her website.
Wow.
But then, like a couple months go by, and she's hiring some local people to shoot what I had already shot. And I get a little jealous and a little like, well, my stuff's better than that.
Naturally.
And we cut together that 3 days of stuff. And I send it to Jenny, and she goes, that's exactly who we are. And she puts it front and center on her website, a film by George Lange.
How about that?
And then Google hired me to do a film on Jenny's.
Really?
Yeah.
And how'd that go?
Not so great.
These activations. Because that's the combination of the two.
Yes. Well, what's funny is the activations are really what I do every day when I do a big, not every day right now, but when I do my big shootings.
Okay.
I create this feeling and this place and this stage that things can happen. And people go on my stage and it's like, whoa, this is fun. And it's over before they even know it.
Okay.
Like one of the reasons I'm successful shooting CEOs is no one ever looks at their watch because it's over. Like I have a half an hour with the person, I'm done in 10 minutes. I get to that feeling. Oh, yeah.
Right away. Give me an example of how that worked once. I mean, it's hard to conceptualize that because stand-up photography is you pose them, you adjust the lighting, you just go in there and just do it.
Yeah.
And you get it quick.
Yeah.
I
went to the White House when Bill Clinton was there.
Okay.
And I go in the Oval Office, and I bring a ghetto blaster. This is the 90s. And I put on Thelonious Monk's In Walked Bud. I love this song. And he looks at me.
He's a saxophone player,
Yeah,
right?
he goes, Johnny Griffin, playing sax. He knew it right away. And then I have him. I said, sit up on the desk, get your feet off the ground. Boom, I'm done.
Wow. It's all feeling for you, right?
It's all feeling. And it's all, you know that feeling that you have, should I send this email? Should I say this thing that I'm thinking?
The deliberation,
But
right?
I don't know what they're going to think about it.
Yeah.
I say it, and I send the email. I
just do it.
hesitate like everyone else, but then I go ahead and do it.
You do it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
So if I come up with an idea that's insane, it's like, life is short.
Well, I was always told too. It's generally served me well. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
That's right.
Not that you ever needed to do that, but I mean,
But the other thing that happens once you get like a good reputation and people like at this Jeff Goldblum shooting the other day, I looked around the room. There are people from London. There are people from LA. They're all checking out my website.
It's awesome.
You know,
but you earned that. You earned that.
Well, thank you. But the thing that's awesome about that is that gives me a little bit of power. That gives me, they go, oh, he took this picture. I want to be in front of his camera. Whatever he wants me to do, I will do. And again, it's the responsibility. Like they're giving me their trust. I am not abusing their trust. I can take pictures of people all the time and they're all on board and they look like a fool. I don't take those pictures.
Understood.
I mean, I'm after something that they're going to go and look at and say, oh, that's exactly who I am.
Got it.
Or who I want to be.
Okay. That's
Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. But it also is, I mean, a little risky is probably the wrong word, but I mean, that's you could get it wrong, not knowing, right? Have you had those moments?
I hope that I go every day to a place that I could fail.
Okay.
Like that's the idea. Failing is beautiful. My son striking out is beautiful. He's upset, you know, and I wish he hit the ball out of the park, but there's something beautiful in failing too, because that is part of the process.
It's a learning.
Even getting depressed. A friend of mine was like really depressed, and I'm talking to her, and I'm saying, that's what you're supposed to be. You were fired from a really big job. Of course you're depressed. It's like your body getting a scab and healing.
Right.
Like you're supposed to get a scab.
Right.
It's not going to heal
Right.
without the scab.
We just label negativity toward it, but it's just part of life.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not denying that it hurts, and life would be great if it didn't exist. But if I don't fail, or at least go to places where I could fail, I'm not going to do anything great. I'm just going to be in the middle.
Did you ever do any photojournalism at all?
Well, I'm shooting more journalistically now, but it's not real photojournalism in that I think photojournalists will tell a darker story than I'll tell.
Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine you going there. The dark
Like,
side of a story
I'm
doesn't
not
seem
looking
to
for the
be
darkness.
you.
I see that road. I know that there are powerful
there.
pictures down that
Yeah,
road, but
yeah.
that's not the road I go down.
So how about this? You said you returned to New York City the day after 9/11. Had you been there at 9/11, would you have used your camera?
That's a good question. Maybe, but that wouldn't have been the first thing I reached for.
Understood.
But those people that took those pictures, well, when Jeff Goldblum walked into this bar where they were having Jeff Goldblum Day, they didn't know that he was coming. And I knew he was coming. And when he walked in, I photographed the people's reaction to him rather than...
That's great.
And even this morning, I saw this picture of people looking in a TV shop at the Apollo 11 moon landing. And it's the people, not what was going on the moon.
Right.
And there's a really, really, really beautiful series of pictures that Paul Fusco, who's a Magnum photographer, took. He was on the train taking Bobby Kennedy's body from New York to Washington. And he photographed, there were people lined up the entire train route just looking, holding signs, and he photographed them. So I might have been doing something like that. But in general, when something bad happens, I don't think I want to get out my camera and photograph that. I feel like, I'm very aware that there's certain people that do things better than I do. So
the dark stuff, or maybe taking the dark road.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been tempted to do it?
I'm just trying to think. I mean, not all my pictures are people smiling.
Right.
Right. And you wouldn't know that, like, when I was photographing, I have the only posed picture of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates together.
I know. I looked at that yesterday.
It's at Steve Jobs' house. They are talking shit with each other.
Yeah, you said that in an interview.
It's crazy.
Elaborate, please.
Bill Gates is going. Now, Bill Gates is more successful at this point than Steve Jobs. And he's going, you will never beat me at anything. You may tie me at something. You will never beat me. Who talks like that?
Two pre-adolescent children, maybe. I don't know.
It was crazy.
I mean, that's great. That is
They're
crazy.
just at each other.
Really? And see, what was interesting was we were introduced by a mutual friend, and as soon as I looked at your portfolio, I had seen so many of his photographs. I just didn't have a name attached to it.
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot?
I like when
consumer based.
When I introduce myself to people, I say, "You've seen my pictures.
There's no
you just
question.
didn't know they were mine."
A lot of them,
and a lot of that had to do with I just didn't have that kind of ego. Like I would run into friends who I'd gone to RISD with in the lobby of the Condé Nast building. Condé Nast publishes Vogue and Vanity Fair and Glamour and all that stuff. And in those days, I would go, when I first started, when I left Annie Leibovitz, I would go to the top of the Condé Nast building, go down the interior stairs, and stop at every magazine. I would never hit the lobby without an assignment. Lots of times they were like literally doing copy work of speaking of still lifes, of the Flying Walenda's scrapbook for a Vanity Fair story. And I was getting $100 or something.
Sure.
But I always got an assignment. And I ran into this photographer and he said, "Do you like photographing celebrities?" I said, "I don't really care who the people are that I'm photographing. Like if they're a celebrity or a mill worker, it's like I'm thrilled to be photographing and telling people stories." Sure. He says, "Oh, I just get so, like, all I want to do is photograph celebrities. I just want to be around them and live with them and,
Okay.
He's like a very famous actor's he's a godfather to their kids now, and this whole thing. He likes the relationships. I never wanted to be, like, if someone invited me to dinner, I was like, oh no, that's not what I do. I take your picture and then we're out of here. Like,
So
I
you
don't
kept
want
it separate then.
That's
interesting.
So I didn't want to be attached to anyone.
That's interesting.
I didn't get off on being in their orbit.
But did you happen to make friends with some of your subjects?
Not close friends. Not really.
So you kept that distance then, at any cost. And
Glenn Beck and I became friends.
That's an odd mix, I think.
That's a very odd mix because I grew up a good liberal in Pittsburgh, and for years I wouldn't even photograph Republican politicians, because I was not going to glorify that because of the way I was brought up.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. I wish them well when we have Republican presidents. I hope you're an awesome president because I believe in the country and and I believe in your right to be who you are.
Yeah.
But I would not. I would not photograph Republicans. That was my thing.
So how did you and Beck connect?
Well, I get
this. Is he a libertarian? What is he? I don't even know what he is. Does he know what he is?
Yeah, he knows exactly who he is. I get this assignment to do an ad campaign for Headline News.
Okay.
And Beck is on there, and I didn't know anything about him because I didn't do my homework.
Okay.
And the woman that hired me, Barbara Griffin, who's one of the great picture editors, and she created the photo department at Turner.
Okay.
And it was the greatest photo department at any network. And she was super smart, and she was given the resources to take advantage of those smarts. So she had an internal group. She hired the best photographers. She hired the best photojournalists in the world to go to Africa with Anderson Cooper.
Right.
She's amazing. And one thing that gets kind of left out of most of these discussions are the people that were assigning me and the people that edited the pictures.
Okay.
They provided a crucial role.
All right.
Every word that you read in a book has been edited. The
Okay.
writer is very good, but an editor has come along behind them and fixed the language. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Every film you see,
Okay.
the job of the editor is so huge. Like they are deciding from all these shots which is going to go in. When you're watching a baseball game, they're flipping from this angle to this angle to this
Live.
angle, or a football game. These are all editors making decisions that tell the story in a powerful way, the most powerful way.
Right.
So someone like the woman who is the picture editor of the New York Times Magazine, or National Geographic, or Barbara down at Turner, Kathy Ryan's at the New York Times Magazine. You know, she's been there a long time. These people, a lot of them are women, which is interesting. They are so smart and so behind the scenes, and they provide such a crucial role. When they call up a subject and say, George Lange's going to be photographing you, they sell me to the subject. So when I walk in, they're all on board.
Got it.
You know, George is going to take this kind of picture, and he's amazing. He's done this and this and this.
But you've earned that, my friend.
Well, thank you. But when I started out, I hadn't earned it. I was just figuring it out. And these people trusted me.
Sure.
And they supported me. And they then took the work that I did and they picked out a great picture for their magazine.
Got it.
Or their whatever it was.
We grew up always hearing about how amazing National Geographic, the quality of the photos were. You know, we were always told that was like the standard. But all the high-end fashion magazines, if you breeze through them, the quality is still there. Different subjects, different
Vanity Fair,
locations.
when Annie was at her height, you know, I would get those
You worked
issues.
for her, right? I worked with her for a while. Talk about that for a second.
Wild.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Annie was my hero growing up. Annie, and then it became Dwayne Michaels, but Annie was like, and it's not that I wanted to be her. She was all in. She was all in. She was like the real deal.
Right.
So I graduate from RISD. I go to New York. One of my classmates is going out with this guy who's Annie's first assistant. And I call him up and I said, I want to work for Annie. And I get a job as the third assistant. And I'm really down the...
But what's the odds of you just coincidentally getting that opportunity? It's Annie.
Right. Well, I did kind of come onto the scene in a very opportune time.
Okay.
Where you could do that.
Okay.
But I would call, like, there was another photographer out on the West Coast, Norman Seif, who I loved, and I knew nothing about him. And I called him up, and he had actually decided not to have me come out during this 6-week period of winter session where you can go and apprentice. Yeah. And I didn't get the letter from him, so I just showed up at his door. Hi, I'm here. He goes, oh, shit.
That's
great. I wasn't going to have you come out, but if you're here, let's get to work. And he was photographing back in that day, you know, Joni Mitchell and Carly Simon and all these famous pictures, Sly and the Family Stone and Ray Charles, and I was there.
Talk about musicians for a second. How many have you shot in your own work? Have you shot musicians? Obviously, you did working for him,
right?
And probably for Annie too, because I mean,
right. But the thing that's so funny is I'm so into music. I I could be living in the largest house in Pittsburgh if I had put that money in the account rather than spend thousands and thousands of dollars on LPs and then CDs and all that stuff. I love music. When I would go to a shooting out in LA, I would have 500 CDs with me. And the music and the rhythm was more important,
I bet,
than anything else to me. It still is. Like, even when I'm working yesterday on this book proposal, the music that was playing, I couldn't quite get it right. It was making me crazy, and I really needed to concentrate. So I didn't want anything too lyrical, so I'm playing this African music, and that's taking me in this place I didn't want to go, and I don't know.
So you're always looking for the vibe.
Always. And when people say, what did you learn from Annie? Because I went to her, and I had been to art school.
Okay.
And I had one camera and one lens, and it never shot color. And I go to work with the great photographer of the Times.
Right.
And I was totally unqualified, except this is what was happening. Well, first of all, the big lesson from Annie was choreography.
Right.
I learned the rhythm of how this all works.
Okay.
On that level.
Okay.
I didn't want to dance like Annie, but I had to figure out my own rhythm. But it was really all about rhythm.
Sure.
So I start working for Annie, and it's kind of a little bit insane. Like, people are screaming and yelling and throwing stuff, and there's drugs in the day, and it's all nuts. And I've never done any drugs in my life.
Right.
I don't even drink.
Right.
I'm totally
right.
boring straight. So I'm watching this whole thing, and I figured out this strategy. I said, this assistant's going to get fired sooner probably than later. And then I'm going to be there, and what's my strategy? So that happened. And she's hiring me. And I said, this is the thing. I'm going to be the best assistant you've ever had. I will be there 24/7. I am totally 1,000% there for you. But if you ever yell at me, I'm out the door.
Huh.
And she's a yeller. Like, she's very emotional and sometimes in those days chemically altered.
Sure.
And she's a yeller. But she respected that because I was there 1,000%. It was the last 6 months of Rolling Stone, the first 6 months of Vanity Fair. I started about 4 months after John Lennon died, and she had taken that famous picture.
Wow.
And after a year, we had gotten very close and had an amazing, I'd been all over the world with her and taken all these, the John Belushi picture on the road, the Steve Martin picture.
Yeah.
Which got lost in the trash at LAX. Because I gave Annie the film and she left it in the airport. And we get to New York and we're going up to Rolling Stone. She goes, give me the film. I said, I don't have the film. You have the film. I mean, it was really wild.
Oh my gosh.
But
that's a wild time though in music though. You were
Yeah. So anyhow, after a year, Annie yelled at me one day. And I was ready to go anyhow.
Okay.
But I had my year with Annie, but she yells at me and I look at her and I go, Annie, you know the deal. And I packed up and walked out and never came back.
Wow.
And we stayed friendly.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
But I haven't photographed that many musicians, and it makes me really sad. And I wouldn't even say the shootings I've done have been my best shootings. Like, I have a pretty bad Paul Simon shooting.
Okay.
And a pretty bad David Byrne shooting.
Okay.
Both musicians I love.
Sure.
I have a beautiful shooting with Pharoah Sanders, the sax player. But most of my music shootings were going to concerts.
Got it.
I'll tell you my favorite, Springsteen.
Yeah. Please do.
He played at the Stanley Theater in '77, the beginning of the Darkness tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I had tickets in the balcony. And I take this roll of film from the balcony that's pretty good, but it's still from the balcony.
Right.
The Stanley Theater is an old, great Pittsburgh theater.
I've been there many times.
It's where I think
it's where the Benedum's at now, right?
Yeah, Bob Marley played his last show, and maybe Duke Ellington.
Wow. Loved it there.
Yeah.
Acoustics were amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if they're better than the Syrian Mosque, but that's...
The mosque.
Yeah.
The mosque basement, too.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
So
we're not too far in age, pal.
Yeah. So I sneak down to the orchestra, and I get really close. And I think at the time I probably thought I took the roll out and put a new roll of film in.
Okay.
But I didn't. The same roll of film went through twice.
Okay. Double exposure.
So I look at it and I'm heartbroken because I had gotten really good Bruce shots and they're double exposed, and I just put it away for years, for decades.
All right.
And then as I'm going through this process of, reevaluating my archive, I look at these pictures and it's like, oh my gosh, these are extraordinary. And if I would have planned it, I would have when
it came out that way.
I never, ever could have put this together. But Bruce is twice, as the E Street Band is in every shot. And they're...
And you didn't look at them since 77?
Yeah. I mean, I looked at them... It wasn't last year, but it was several years ago. But it wasn't until definitely way into this century.
Wow. Musicians tough, generally... Actors, musicians, all the same? People are people...
The only group I'd kind of split off of that maybe are comedians.
Ah, okay.
Comedians can be harder.
And why would that be?
Because you expect them to be funny.
And they're not. They have helped being funny.
Right. But the thing about my shootings is they're so light and fast and fleeting.
Okay.
That there's no place, like, I feel like if you're going to get angry at someone, they have to give you a target. Mm-hmm. If there's no target,
Got it.
You're just looking at, like, what is this? It's like, I feel like my shootings, honestly, are energy. It's like, I've never even described them like this before, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's like this energy that, like, happens and then is gone. And I purposely try and create this feeling.
Got it.
And this place for people to open up in a safe place. And I shoot, like, I'm walking, it's the set of Big Fish, and I'm there to photograph
it's a quirky movie.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And it's for Maxim, and it's a story on how much he likes smoking.
I saw that photo.
Yeah.
Is there a lion's head on
Yeah.
that? That's a great photo.
So the production office
Love that photo.
is in a old high school in Alabama.
Okay.
And I'm walking down the hall, and there's a door open, and there's this taxidermy lion in there. Now, when you're on a film set, they never, ever let you use their stuff. Maybe Annie shooting Star Wars, she gets to use her stuff. But in general, you can, especially if you aren't shooting for the film. You just, like, it doesn't work like that. That's not a rental house for your props.
Interesting.
So I'm going down, I see that, I know the producer, I think it was Steve Tisch. And I ask him if I can use the lion. Sure, whatever you want. We take it in this room. Ewan McGregor comes in. I do some test shots with me in there. He comes in, lights up. I'm done in 3 minutes. Like, there's nothing. There's no like. It's not like this long. It's not like Fish.
Yeah, like the movie, right?
No. Like the band. It's not like a Grateful Dead concert. It's like, I'm done.
Got it.
Like,
Got it.
I have my picture, and then because I've traveled the whole way down there and I have an hour with him, I keep working. It's all downhill, pretty much.
Is it all when you go in there to create the vibe? How do you prepare? How do you know what you want to do there? Is it last minute? Do you think about it for a week or two?
Eric, you're going on a date. Mm-hmm. How are you going to kiss her? You think about it?
Happens.
You plan it?
Just happens.
Okay, my mouth.
Maybe when I was 16, my first kiss, maybe.
Right. But we've been doing this a while.
Got it.
So it's really like, how am I going to get that feeling? How am I going to do something so intimate that lets her know how much I love her? How do you do that? You don't think about it.
Just spontaneous. You just do it.
Yeah. And once you've done it for a while,
you're good at it.
You get that.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah.
That's crazy, though. I mean,
but that's exactly what it's like.
See, that would be nerve-wracking to me.
Why?
I guess because of the scope of some of your shoots, the scope of some of the people you're shooting, probably, and knowing that you're going to go in there and kind of wing it the moment you walk in.
Do you know how happy I am being in that place? You put that camera in my hand, it's like, for me, it's like being a magician pulling rabbits out of the hat. Like, when I get that camera in my hand, I don't care if someone doesn't like me. I don't care if I fail. I don't care if, I don't care about anything except trying to channel what's going through my head into a picture.
Okay.
And the way that I get inspired is by what people are doing.
Okay.
And some aside, some woman walking down the alley, being in the dressing room with Jim Carrey, and he has that rubbery skin, and going like, "Good Lord, what's that going to look like when you're 75, buddy?" And he picks up a clothespin. It's going to look like this, and it's going to look like this, and it's going to look like this, and suddenly he has clothespins around his head, and there's our picture.
Yeah,
I'm with Glenn Beck, and we're in Richard Avedon's old studio. Very, very, very holy ground for photographers.
Okay.
Marilyn Monroe, the Beatles, everyone was photographed in a room that's maybe twice the size of this. It's not very big.
Okay.
And I'm very aware of the ghosts floating around in that room.
Okay.
And I'm shooting a book jacket for Glenn that is and they have these ideas that really aren't very good, but I'm being professional. I'm going through all the ideas. And towards the end of the shooting, Glenn says, I hate California. I go, what do you mean you hate California? That's ridiculous. He goes, don't even get me started. And I look around, and there's a map of California on the wall. And I asked for an X-Acto knife, and I get out the X-Acto knife, and I cut out California, and you know what it's shaped like? A tongue. I put it in his mouth. I said, okay, eat it. Eat California. Oh, he starts having indigestion, and then California is a wad inside of his mouth. And I say, spit it at me. The last frame of the shooting is this wad of paper map coming at the camera, and you see it.
That is great.
And that's it. You know what the cover of the book is?
That is great.
Glenn with California coming out of his mouth. And that's how it happened.
And then you just come up with that in a spontaneous nature.
But I do that right now. Whatever, you're like leading me, and they're kind of guardrails, I guess. but it's like all I'm doing is like letting the stuff bounce around. It's like a pinball machine inside my head. The ball's just bouncing around, and I'm going like, oh, that felt good when it bounced there. That was interesting when it bounced there.
Did you ever go in for a shoot and you were dry? Couldn't come up with anything?
Yeah, I love that.
What do you do?
That's how I want to be.
What do you do?
I mean, take it back to your wife. Do you ever get in bed and go like, how are we going to have sex?
No.
No.
Not discussed.
No. Like it's going to work out. And once the mechanics are good, and then once it starts going, well, then you let go of your phone, hopefully. Let go of like the crap that happened at work. You let go of all this stuff, and suddenly there's this moment where anything can happen.
Okay.
That moment where anything can happen is the place I like to live my life. Okay. When I'm with my kids, I don't want to really talk about my day unless there's like an interesting lesson there or something. I don't really want to talk about like the plumber that we need to call or something going on with the roof or whatever. I want to go to that place where we're both like imagining stuff, where we're dreaming in real time.
The hat.
What's
the hat?
The hat. My family, my mother's family came to Homestead, and there was this Jewish community, and the Jews were running the stores on 8th Street.
Okay.
They were doing other stuff too, but that's my family had a clothing store on 8th Street.
Okay.
So Homestead's always been this mysterious place I knew nothing about except my family went there, and we know very little about our family history.
Okay.
And there's a woman named Tammy Hepps who grew up in Philly, went to Harvard, came to Pittsburgh to look into and study her family history in Homestead for like 6 months.
All right.
She's been here like 4 years, and she's recreated the Jewish history in Homestead, to the point that when my mother was sitting there and Tammy says, do you know how your grandfather died? To my mother.
Right.
My mother says, I don't know. Tammy says, oh, I have his birth certificate right here on my computer, or his death certificate right here on my computer. So she's done all this stuff. But there's something both mysterious, and Homestead's like weird holy ground, and I feel like a lot of bones are buried there. Like there's a lot of stuff there. So last summer when we're here and my boys come and my mom's sick, but each day we're like going out doing something, there was some little kind of a street fair in Homestead that we stumbled on. And we get out and there's a booth of this guy, his first name's Everett, and I think his company's like Homestead Renaissance or something. And he's doing this merch based on this.
And the zip.
It's like the
that's cool.
The element of
that's cool. That's
and
cool.
So
that's cool.
I bought all this merch, and I love wearing it. I wear that, and I wear Daily Bread, and Daily Bread is a hip hop brand that Mac Miller introduced me to.
Yeah,
I grew up with his mom Karen.
Okay, that's a shame.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
That's brutal.
It is brutal.
He was a super talented and generous guy to everyone.
Yeah.
And had a big heart. And was also starting, I mean, people like different parts of his career, but the music that he was doing at the end was just really in another zone.
It absolutely was.
It was so good. You look at him singing Ladders on Stephen Colbert. That's just...
It's different.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And, but... if you speak to anyone that went to his bar mitzvah, and all my mom's friends were at Malcolm's bar mitzvah, they all said there was something like, what is it with this kid? Like, it was there.
Yeah.
So
It's a vibe.
it was more than
Aura,
a vibe.
aura, whatever it is.
It was like there was something magical about this kid.
Yeah.
Up on stage.
Yeah. Oh, he had it. He definitely had it. Pittsburgh's a fertile entertainment city. And I think the generation below where I am placed currently is really doing a lot to take pride in the town. You see it in merch, you see it in clothing, you see it in it's the town's responding here. I mean, the amount of bars and specialized craft beer locations and unique foods and food trucks and things that my generation didn't think of doing, but this younger generation is on it, man. They are on it.
The commerce is great, but it's like there's a soul to this town.
There's no question.
And it's hard for people that are busy leading their lives and getting their kids to school and doing their jobs and watering their lawns and making dinner and all this stuff that we have to do to stop and really appreciate the soul of this town and coming back to it after all these years. For me, it is such a soulful place. And you just have to stop and listen to it. It's here.
Yeah.
And it's not, the pictures that I want to take here are not of the Three Rivers. It is not from Mount Washington.
Yeah.
The pictures I take getting to technical stuff, I'm never further than this when I photograph someone. I never use a long lens.
It's the people.
It's 50 millimeters or less.
Yeah.
I can touch people. When I go to shoot even this sports stuff, the reason I'm not shooting the stuff out on the field is I can't get out there.
Got it.
But I have to be able to touch my subject. Lots of times I'll hold their hand when I'm taking their picture.
Wow.
And spin them around.
Wow.
And I'll hold the camera in one hand and be spinning them in the other. Like, I need to be that close. And if you look at my pictures, they have hopefully an intimacy. And it's because I'm that close. Like, I am not, if you see a headshot of mine, it is not taken with a long lens.
You're using primes. You're using, like, just to be technical for a second, you're using 50s or using 85s or
I
using
use
35s?
a 28 to 70 zoom.
Okay.
And it is rarely zoomed like the longest. But even 70 is not very long.
No, not at all.
Right.
Especially on full frame.
Right.
What are you shooting now, if you don't mind me asking?
A Canon.
Canon?
A 1DX Mark II.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Canon to come out with their mirrorless. I need that. The professional mirrorless. Their amateur mirrorless is really a problem for me. It's way too slow.
Okay.
But I was using a Leica SL, which is a beautiful mirrorless camera, but it's also too slow for me. So, but I love mirrorless cameras. I love that they're so quiet.
Yeah,
I love
no
that
question.
that you're looking actually through the lens rather than through a mirror.
You surprised that the DSLRs, the mirror camera lasted this long? It's just, to me, it's amazing that it held on as a staple in the industry this long.
Well, when you consider that a digital picture has all that information, like, that still kind of blows me away. And I was a very early adapter. As soon as digital became available,
That was my next
all
question
over it.
for you. When did you go from
2002.
Nice.
Like, Kodak made a really good medium format.
I remember that.
And I was all over that. I couldn't wait to get rid of film. Film was a pain in my butt. I couldn't stand film.
Film was risky too. I'm sure you had to Polaroid back to get a view of what you did, but you really.
But I was shooting
never...
transparencies. Like, if I was a quarter stop off, it was a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
And also going through airports and
right. That's
going to Australia to do an assignment and coming back with, like, the film and a case and the person at customs saying, sorry, it has to go through X-ray.
That's horrific.
Yeah. I mean, that was really crazy.
But digital opened up photography to so many people now. I mean, photography is it's everywhere. And the cameras, the pictures that I've taken on my cameras now, I think 16 million pixels, whatever it even means. But the quality is really good. If you're going to print a 16 by 20 or a smaller print, it's fine.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I've started printing the last year for the first time ever. And I've started selling these prints.
Yeah.
You guys can go to my website.
That's right.
Which is georgelange.com, which I've just updated in the last month.
I saw that. You had an option for the old site or the new site.
Yeah.
Go to the new site.
Go to the new site.
They're both great. Go
There's
to the new
some fun
site.
stuff that we left out in the old site. But the new site, if you go to the print section, everything on my site's available like for print.
Right.
But the prints that we're making they're 17 by 22.
Wow.
I'm making all of them with my assistant, but they are all like, I'm all in with these, and they're all signed and beautiful.
Archival paper and high-end archival paper.
Beautiful paper.
Yeah.
And
makes a huge difference.
But when I was leaving Boulder, I had never sold my prints. I wanted to make this box.
That amazes me.
I had wanted to make this box, and I made this box. And once the box was made, I started showing it to some friends in Boulder, and I went to New York and showed it, and people were like flipping out.
Right.
Right. It's really beautiful.
Is another book I mean, you made an instructional book full of your images.
Right.
But an actual coffee table book, your work.
That's inevitable.
Is that something that's going to happen?
But I have to figure out a way to do it with the stories around the pictures, because the stories are really
That would
fun
be unusual.
But that's
be amazing.
That's how it should be.
That'd be amazing.
So I started making these prints, and people started buying the prints, and it was like, this is
good.
Awesome.
This is good.
This feels good. But the thing that was the nicest thing about it is people came, and did they want a picture of Kate Spade or Bruce Springsteen or the Jobs and Gates picture people like, or I have this insane picture of Jimmy Buffett and Warren Buffett dressing up as each other.
I think Warren is buttoning the dress shirt on Jimmy.
Exactly.
Is that right?
He's fixing his tie.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
And my friend Bobby Feldman, above his desk at his office down in the Strip, is this gigantic print that he had made of that picture.
That's amazing.
But people are buying that, and they're like really getting it. Like, they love it's fun living with these pictures.
Right.
But the other thing that they said that was really sweet is, I want you up on my wall.
How flattering is that?
And that is really awesome, because
Absolutely.
the truth is, all of these pictures are built around this same feeling. Like, it's all different ways of telling that story. But for me, when I look at Kate Spade or the Buffetts, or it's all like
there's a little bit of you in there.
There's a lot of me in there.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because of my ego, I really didn't embrace that until recently. And now I'm holding up these prints and showing these prints, and it's thrilling.
You should. This is your archival work. This is your body of work.
And people should understand that not only are they affordable, but it's like a really nice thing to bring into your life. And what I like about these pictures is I feel like they work almost better. They aren't for your living room as much as your dressing room or your bathroom or your kitchen. These are pictures that are really nice to wake up to and to live with.
Got it.
They're intimate in a way that makes you feel good about yourself. I hope.
Is it langstudio.com? Or is it George Lange?
It's georgelange.com.
georgelange.com.
Yes, with an E at the end.
So selfishly, my friend, now that you're back in Pittsburgh, you're going to come back and see me again?
Of course.
I like to make this a regular thing.
All right, I'm here.
I appreciate it.
I get to come out to Coriopolis.
Yes, you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. You made my day.
Well, thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, George.
Thanks.
Thank you, friends. All right, so George, what am I seeing? What are these activations on your site? I've seen them. I really dig them, but what is your description of what you're doing there?
So when I started working at Instagram and Facebook, they would have these big events.
Okay.
They would go to Cannes Lion every year, which is the largest gathering of advertising people in the world.
Okay.
In southern France. And they would bring me.
All right.
And they'd say, set up a studio and we're going to get people to you and take these pictures.
Okay.
And it was almost that loose.
All right.
And the first year I set it up backstage and I photographed everyone from Mark Ronson to Marilyn Manson to Julia Louis-Dreyfus to the guy that invented the internet. I forget his name.
Okay.
Like all these amazing people. But I did it in I had photographed a couple weeks before at my son's elementary school and built a cardboard box and painted it white and had a window.
All right.
And the kids got in that box and they opened up in a way that was different than any other pictures. They felt totally safe and comfortable.
Okay.
So then I was going to Cannes Lion. I thought, I'm going to do one of these little boxes. But we built it very nicely. We put a nice wallpaper in the back and built it out of wood. But it was still like basically a little window.
Yeah.
And people got in there and they got crazy. like the people that did the the shot on an iPhone campaign.
Yeah.
All the people got in there and were amazing. Some other guys that did this great campaign, these 3 German guys, they had just won an award. They went in there with champagne and there's champagne going everywhere. It's on the activation page of my website. You can see it. It's really super fun. So then the next year, we had this idea. I was working with an amazing person at Instagram named Damian Baines.
Okay.
Really a real visionary, a real creative, and a really beautiful guy.
All right.
So Damien said, we're going to do something with water.
All right.
We built a studio on the beach, and we built a stream of water that we could control.
Okay.
So when people walked in, we'd have them stand there, and if they didn't want to get wet, because we were doing everyone from like Sheryl Sandberg down and up.
Understood.
In advertising.
Understood.
And they could stand a little behind it, and it was basically a sheet of water.
Got it.
But it was super hot.
Yeah.
And I'm in there, and people would walk in and sign in, and then I would have 15 seconds of water to photograph them because we were recycling it.
Understood.
And the pictures are hysterical. I shot at a very fast shutter speed, and the idea was that you have all these amazing people coming to this event. How can you show that they were all there together for your event? So we had the Instagram logo behind it, but it didn't look like a red carpet thing. It looked like something special, but the people,
it was fun.
Because they're on my set and we have this great idea, like this magic happened. It was just like everyone was in this state of ecstasy.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah.
And so they would parade in one side and go out the other side wet, and I would wind up with these pictures that everyone used as their profile picture. They not only used it as we just did this, it would become their profile picture. So for a year or two, you would see that picture in their feeds of very prominent people. The next year, this is really bad, I'm going to forget her name. We hired an artist who paints people into the an LA artist that paints people in Alexa Mead.
Okay.
And she paints people into the background. And so she'll paint someone, and it looks like they're part of the painting, but they're real.
Okay.
So that was the conceit for the booth that we built.
Sure.
And we would have a model that looked like they were part of it, but they could do things. And then she did these props. She would have a coat painted like it looked like it was part of the painting.
Got it.
Or she painted a wooden apple that was part of it that someone could hold, and a paddle. Okay. So I told this one person that runs a surfing company out in California, hit the apple at me. I was like 15 feet away, no big deal. He hits it. It ricochets off the paddle so hard and hits me so hard in the eye. I'm at the hospital in Cannes. I am not kidding.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
But the shot was great. I have people throw stuff at me all the time.
Yeah, I noticed that in some of your work.
But I don't like to get damaged.
Hey, you want to get hit. You get personally or equipment-wise, right?
But you know, it's a really fun thing for people to do at any event. It doesn't have to be Instagram.
Sure.
It can be an off-site for a company.
Yeah,
it could
corporate
be,
event.
Yeah. That what I try and do is to create a space that brands that event. And people wind up with these pictures that are super fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I get to do my magic.
And it's so unexpected. I mean, that's just like turning everything up on its head. And
well,
it was just kind of what you do.
Right. But people feel, and this is the thing about all my shootings, people feel really good about themselves when they leave. They don't go like, oh my God, what did I do? Or, oh, glad that's over. Like they leave my shootings pretty high, as I do. And that's the whole idea, is that it's kind of a performance. And I've done it with the UN in New York.
Right.
And I did it with this
With the
group.
UN?
There's this group called Concordia that works in conjunction with them, and they have a big meeting.
Okay.
When the UN has their big thing in September in New York.
Okay.
And so off stage, I was photographing everyone from like Tony Blair to the top pop singer
insane.
In Colombia. And this is the idea I had for that. I was playing with these light bulbs from the hardware store in Boulder that were just cool. And I hung them from strings. And I had this idea to have them fade up.
Okay.
Shoot a slow motion film, 4 seconds long, and then fade down.
Okay.
Yo-Yo Ma. The guy that started the VRBO, like all these people, they'd be on my set for 30 seconds. That's all I needed. And we wound up with these short little films that were amazing. And
I can't
everyone
imagine.
loved it. And it took nothing because it took so little time.
Sure.
And then they last forever. It's awesome.
That is so you. I mean, the whole tapestry of your career and how you approach each subject and each shoot. Of course you did this.
So what I love doing with this is with smaller groups, like there's a group of Instagram food influencers.
Yeah.
And they had a meeting out in Napa Valley, only 20 of them, and they invited me.
Right.
So I did this series, this activation, this series of pictures out in the woods that were really beautiful.
Okay.
And then I did a workshop, a photo workshop. So when you combine the two, it's really fun.
I bet.
And I can scale it up or down. And one of the things that happened in Boulder that I really don't want to happen here is when I moved to Boulder, people were like, I can't believe someone of George's talent and reputation is moving to Boulder. This is so awesome for Boulder. And no one called me because they thought I was too busy or too expensive or not available or whatever. And it's like...
So Pittsburgh. He's here.
I am totally here.
He's approachable.
I am available.
He's engaged.
And I want to take your picture.
And he's ready.
Right. And I mean that. Whether people want prints, call me up.
Yeah.
We're showing these prints. They are amazing and they're fun. They're amazing gifts. They're amazing to own.
That's GeorgeLange.com, by the way.
Yes. And and also for different things, when I do these activations, they're wild.
Yeah.
And you
I
wind
can't
up
imagine.
with these amazing pictures.
I have to see you do that. I'm so curious right now. I'm so curious right now.
That's the other thing that's really funny. I'm the only one that doesn't get to see me work.
Yeah, you're working.
But I hear
it's amazing.
It's really fun.
Thank you.